We are discussing threats to biodiversity, and in that, today we will have a look at habitat fragmentation. We will be discussing what is habitat fragmentation, example of reindeer as effects of habitat fragmentation, what changes habitat fragmentation causes to populations and habitats, and at the end, what are the effects of habitat fragmentation, especially on animals and organisms. Coming back to the topic, what is habitat fragmentation? Suppose that is a habitat, a continuous habitat, and these dots represent animals that are living in that habitat. It is a single habitat, right? If we divide that habitat by barriers like this, these barriers can be of any type, in the form of roads, towns, bridges, fences. Now you can see that the number of populations will be, or size of population will be decreased. If you count these dots, that was when it was single habitat, and there were 7 organisms living in that habitat in that case. But if we divide the habitat, and there will be pieces, and fragmented habitats will become, we will have 3 small habitats, number 1, number 2 and number 3. In number 1, there will be only 2 individuals. In number 2, there will be 3 individuals, and in number 3 habitat there will be again 2 individuals. So population size has decreased, which was 7 at one time. Now in some habitats it is 2, in some it is 3. So that is habitat fragmentation, when habitat is divided into pieces. And the most prominent or pronounced effect of habitat fragmentation is decrease in population size, and decrease in population size can result in number of problems for population. Habitat fragmentation is defined as division of continuous area into pieces, into fragments, and this division can be through roads, towns, bridges, fences, dams. All these human constructions can result in habitat fragmentation. Next, we will discuss example of reindeer. Reindeer is found in southern Norway, and in southern Norway it is found as single herd. It was found as single herd in southern Norway. Traditionally, the habit of reindeer mouse is that that it lives 5 kilometers away from human settlements. Now, due to human constructions, habitat fragmentation has resulted, and the population of reindeer, which was in the result of or in the form of single herd at one time, now has divided into 26 herds. And all these activities has resulted in decline of population of reindeer, and now its population has remained only 10% of regional population in areas 5 kilometers away from human settlements. So here in this example we have seen that habitat fragmentation can result in decrease in population size of individual. What are the changes that will result due to habitat fragmentation? Number one is that, as we are discussing, habitat fragmentation can result in small populations, number of organisms is reduced, biodiversity is declined, and other impact of habitat fragmentation is increase in edge effect. Now, what is edge effect? Edge effect is alteration at boundary of two habitats. When we fragment the habitat, there will be more edge area, or size of edge area will increase, which is called edge effect. It also heavily impacts the populations of organisms, as we will discuss later on in later lectures. The third impact is center of habitat is close to edge. The center of population, the center of habitat becomes close to edge. Now, why it is harmful for organisms if center is close to edge? There are many disadvantages. Intruders can easily enter the interior of habitat and disturb the organisms living there. There will also be more drastic environmental factors that will impact, like fires will spread easily into the interior and destroy the biodiversity there. So these are some impacts of habitat fragmentation and how they change the habitat. Next section is about effects of habitat fragmentation on animals. Number one is limited dispersal and colonization. If there is a continuous habitat, organisms can easily move around in the habitat, but if it is fragmented, say for example by a road, organisms will not visit that area which is included in road, and obviously we will also clear the trees around the road. Some area will also be dedicated for at the sides of roads, and here there will also be cutting of trees, deforestation. Now, why organisms don't visit these areas? Because here it will be change of environmental conditions. There will be more sunlight, there will be less humidity, there will be more wind wind velocity, and organisms that are shade loving will not visit these areas. Organisms which love humidity, like amphibians, will also not visit that areas. So it will decrease the dispersal or movement of organisms to these areas. Also, some organisms will be killed by vehicles, and all these activities, all these factors will result in decrease in population diversity, biodiversity, or a threat to biodiversity. Number one point we have discussed: animals will also be killed as while crossing the road by vehicles, and it will also impact the plants that are dependent for their reproduction on animals, and the dispersal of their seeds, sticky seeds, for animals. These plants will also be impacted. New species will also not be able to colonize these empty habitats, because same barriers will work for them also. They will also not be able to cross these barriers and settle down here. So decline in vacuum in biodiversity here will not be filled by new coming species. There will also be habitat also remains fragmented, and species diversity will remain low in these areas. Second effect is limited foraging ability. Foraging means movement in search of food. It is called foraging. Organisms have to move in the entire area in search of resources that are essential for their survival. Maybe these are the scarce resources, but organisms have to get them once in a year or once in a month, but they necessarily have the access to these resources for their survival. If this access is denied, organisms will not be able to visit or to get benefit from these scarce resources, and it will impact their survival. Barriers like fences may stop movement of animals to pastures. Pastures will be denied, access to pastures will be denied to organisms. What will result? Organisms will have to live in a small area, and they will have to whatever resources have to use whatever resources present in that small area for their survival. Here struggle for existence will start, and these animals will actually exploit these resources. Overgraze, if they are grazing animals, they will overgraze the area, which will result in destruction or degradation of habitat. Also, it will increase the competition between individuals for food and space. So, struggle of existence here will start, and it will result in only survival of fittest. And the outcome of all these is decline in population diversity. Third effect is population decline and extinction. Smaller populations often do not have random mating. Uh, Random mating is necessary for establishing the stable gene diversity or gene frequency. In small populations, organisms have fewer number of mates available to them, and this mating between close relatives results in inbreeding depression. Number of genes or diversity of genes is decreased. Maybe some deleterious genes become more common due to mating between relatives, and hereditary diseases will be increased in that population. Genetic drift, which is variation in gene frequencies due to smaller populations, will also result, and the impact of disease will also increase on the populations. If a threatening disease that is harmful for a single individual will impact similarly all the individuals of the species, and can result of extinction of entire species because they have less genetic variety, less adaptation and resistance to combat their particular disease. It will result in decline in population diversity. Effect 4 is access of hunters. By construction of roads, it is easier for people to access that area, that hunting ground. They can use their vehicles to reach that area. Also, it is possible that more number of people will be visiting that area, and all this result in excessive hunting of the species, and destruction of it will result, or it will lead to destruction of species. Also, all this hustle and bustle and human movement and movement of vehicles and machinery disturb the normal day life or daily activities of the animals that are living there, and it will somehow disturb overall functioning of these animals, and they will not be able to carry out many of their uh, daily activities, their life processes. Animals will shy to come to that area, and it will result in decline in population diversity. Survival of organisms will be threatened, and ultimately it lead to decline in population diversity. Fifth impact is transmission of diseases. Due to human settlements, it is possible that contact between humans, between domestic animals and wild organisms is possible due to human settlements near the forests or near the habitats. Now, when organisms will come into contact with each other, there will be a problem of lack of resistance to a particular disease. Organisms that are living in the wild environment are capable of living there, and by the process of through the process of evolution, they have evolved resistance to diseases that are common in the wild. Now, if these diseases will be transferred to domestic animals or from domestic animals to wild animals, there will be a problem of resistance. Wild animals will not be able to combat the diseases of domestic animals and vice versa. More close contact between these wild animals and humans can result in transmission of diseases to humans, as we have seen in the case of COVID-19. So these were some effects of habitat fragmentation on the diversity of organisms. We have discussed what is habitat fragmentation, how it changes the habitats, what changes it result in habitats, and what are the effects of habitat fragmentation on animals.